think we're going to begin.
All right.
Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
To Africa ShineOn. My name is Yossi Abramowitz. I'll be your host
Captain
every
Sunshine.
week for
Captain
Captain Sunshine. I'll be your host every week, interviewing a different ambassador from Africa to Israel. We're going to also start integrating technologies that could be helpful to Africa. From the second that Golda Meir, then as foreign minister of the state of Israel, 1958, stepped foot on the African continent and did a 5-nation tour, there's been a love affair, an on and off again love affair between Israel, the Jewish people, and Africa. It was on during the Golda Meir years, after the 1973-74 Yom Kippur War. It was really a cutting off of relations. And in the last good number of years, those relations have warmed up. More and more African countries, like Zambia, have opened embassies here. More and more commercial delegations have gone to Africa, like Ilan Goldstein and myself were able to accompany the Prime Minister to several countries. And as we speak, a brand new foreign minister is being sworn in the state of Israel. And so we've been in a little bit of a holding pattern politically here in the state of Israel, but by midnight tonight, I believe that it'll be Foreign Minister Gabi Ashkenazi. We will see at some point if we can have him on as a special guest. And the love affair actually began with a feeling of brotherhood, and we'll hear about modern manifestations of it. But the founding visionary of the Zionist movement for the Jewish people to come home to the ancient homeland, Theodor Herzl, wrote in his diary that after he helps bring liberation and redemption to the Jewish people in its homeland, he hopes to be a partner in the redemption of the Africans. And that, of course, meant from colonialism. My worldview is through energy as a way to bring economic and social development to our friends in Africa, but not only energy in terms of what, like through our industries of goodness, water, clean energy, agriculture, medical, especially in these times. Israel has the potential to be really a superpower of goodness and an excellent partner for the over 1 billion people in Africa, and particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. We live in an imperfect world, and we live in a very, very challenging time. And so it's really going to be friendships. It's really going to be trust. It's going to be the speed of trust and the relationships that will bring together the kinds of partnerships to really lift up the most vulnerable people at perhaps one of the most vulnerable moments in world history and in human history. I happen to have a lot of friends in Zambia, and we are so honored for Ambassador Martin, the Dean of the entire African Diplomatic Corps to the State of Israel, a man who I met, I think, on his second day when he arrived in Israel in 2015, with a mandate from his president, who is still the president, and whose partnership we appreciate, to really bring our peoples together and our countries together. And Ambassador Martin, I consider you a friend of Israel and the Jewish people. And I know that we're going to work together, the greater we and the greater together, really in the interest of friendship and in the interest of human dignity, so that more and more can be done between the people of Israel and the people of Zambia. So welcome to you. Welcome to the people on Zoom. Welcome to the people on Facebook. I already see people raising their hand, the honorary consul of Israel in Zambia. So we're going to hold off on questions. We have some great guests to be able to join us. 2 students from Zambia studying at IDC. We'll meet them a little bit later. Ilan Goldstein, an investor in wind and solar energy. He'll be the first hybrid
co-founder of Gigawatt Wind.
Indeed, indeed. And my teacher, and he's the one who really facilitated the trip where I got to recently meet the president. And so thank you. We have your counterpart, Mr. Ambassador, Ambassador Gershon Kedar, the ambassador of Israel to Zambia. And I know they, and we may even have some kids on who are going to ask some questions. But at this point, hello, Ambassador Kedar. At this point, Your Excellency,
Hello, hi, how are you?
Shalom. Tell
Hi,
us a
shalom,
little
shalom.
bit about yourself, please.
Thank you, Yossi, for this opportunity for me to speak about Zambia and its relations with Israel. A little bit about me. As you said, I arrived in Israel in 2015. In fact, it's going to be exactly 5 years, 4 days ago, because we arrived on the 10th of May, 2015. Before that, I worked my the intelligence service in my country. I was there for 34 years, and I headed it for the last 3 years. So it's after that that I was appointed to Israel. And this is my posting as ambassador. And as Yossi said, this is our first mission, rather it's our first resident mission. We were previously represented from Nairobi. So that's the little bit I'm able to say about myself. I'm here with my family, my wife and one child.
How old is that child?
He's 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's
Oh.
actually a big gap with the rest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And how has the experience been living in Israel for the last 5 years with your
Well,
family?
it's been quite an exciting place. It's a mixture of the ancient, the old, and the very modern. That's quite exciting.
Yes, indeed. Now,
Interesting mix.
now we have many people from Zambia, mostly through the Facebook, so they know about Zambia. But for the rest of us, can you introduce us to Zambia? How many people? What's the size of it? What's the culture like? Give us a little bit of a flavor.
All right. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Zambia is in the southern part of Africa. It's surrounded by 8 other countries. Some of the countries which surround it are the DRC up north, Zimbabwe and Botswana in the south, Angola in the west, Malawi and Mozambique in the east, and Tanzania northeast. So those are some of our neighbors. We used to refer to ourselves as a landlocked country.
Mm-hmm.
We refer to ourselves as a land-linked country because we believe it's an asset.
Very good.
So
Very good.
it's in terms of size, it's 752,618 square kilometers.
Which is like what? Like
33 times the size of Israel.
33 times the size of Israel.
Yes.
That's extraordinary.
In terms of population,
Yes.
we are 18 million now.
Okay.
In comparing to Israel, we are about twice the number of people in Israel.
Wow. So it's very spread out. If you only have twice the population, but 33 times the land mass.
Yeah, but it's most people live along the rail line. It's quite an urbanized country.
Yes. Yes.
There's a lot of space which is not occupied.
Indeed. Well, we've seen some of that space because we want to do solar fields and wind turbines, and so we've been very impressed with that space. And I like the land linked rather than landlocked because it also means that your grids, your electric grids, are interconnected, which puts you
Yes,
potentially at a
yes.
strategic place, Your Excellency. That's very good.
They are connected with the neighboring.
That's very good. So, Alice, let's show people a little bit of Zambia, just to kind of get a flavor, if you can do that, please. You ready?
Sure.
Hang in, everybody. This is from the Tourism Bureau. We're only going to watch part of it. It's a beautiful country.
Zambia. Even saying the word is a multi-sensory experience. It somehow captures something of the essence of this special place in the warm heart of southern Africa. Take in the mighty Zambezi River, the majestic Victoria Falls that form Zambia's natural southern border, and the national parks overflowing with wildlife. Immerse yourself in the fast-growing towns and cities, teeming with history, light, and life. Then visit the vast lakes that seem to touch the stars and engage with the plethora of different ethnic groups, cultures, and languages. Together, they make up the intricately woven fabric of this remarkable country. To visit Zambia is to begin a love affair that will never be exhausted, and unlike any that you have ever experienced before. For all the superlatives that man has used in his attempts to describe Victoria Falls, none are able to do this incredible natural wonder justice. You have to see it for yourself. It is a truly awe-inspiring experience. Livingston, once Zambia's capital, and the Zambian side of the falls have become a mecca for discerning adventure tourists. Peer into the abyss from Devil's Pool at the edge of the falls. Career down the powerful rapids from Batoka Gorge in a whitewater raft. Bungee jump from the historic Victoria Falls Bridge. Or fly over the falls on a flight of angels.
Wow. I have to say, I was at the Blue Nile in Ethiopia, but I have still not been to Victoria Falls, and looking forward to it. There's about to be a national convention on the economy that was going to be there, but it's such a beautiful country, Your Excellency. So, do Israelis come and visit?
Well, the last figures I have in 2018, we have 2,000 visitors, but we are hoping to have more Israelis traveling to Zambia.
Well, actually,
For business, but we'd like to have more tourists traveling there.
so one of the surprising things about Zambia, and I learned this from my friend the bishop, I think he might be on, is Zambia's very rich Jewish history. The state of Israel owes a gratitude to Zambia and the Jewish community there, because Stanley Fisher, who was the governor of the Bank of Israel during the economic crisis and then became the deputy head of the Fed in America, I think was raised in Zambia. But tell us a little bit about the Jewish community, so to whet all of our appetites to come and visit.
Yes, the connection with the Jewish people go to the end of the 19th century. That's when we had the first Jewish people coming into the country. And most of them came from the Baltic states, Latvia and Lithuania. Those are the first ones who came first through South Africa. And most were coming for economic opportunity. And a number of them settled in Livingston, which you showed a bit of. And you can see evidence of that if you go to Livingston now. There is a building which used to be a synagogue. You can see the Star of David on it. Cemetery as well. So you can actually see that connection. And increase after the Holocaust. At the peak, we had about 1,200 Jewish people in the 50s. But they left after Zambia got independent. The 60s, when other expatriates also left. Just a small community. I believe it's 30, 35, but I don't have the exact number. I'm talking about the resident, those permanent residents.
Yes.
There are, of course, many Israelis who are now doing business in Zambia, traveling back and forth.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. And I believe there's a museum there in Livingston that we'd like to go to.
Yes.
I failed to mention to say all protocol observed, because you have the British tradition. But one of the interesting things, here we are, from Jerusalem, broadcasting on this side, and you're in the center of the country. And Israel is known as a Jewish state. one of the things I've learned and appreciate about Zambia is that according to your constitution, you are a Christian nation. What does that mean? Can you, I think we're curious.
Well, the declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation was made by the late President Frederick Chiluba in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, it's now enshrined in the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
in the preamble.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizes Christianity as the official religion for Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we have 85% of the population are Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that other people are not allowed to practice their religion. They are allowed to, and their freedom of conscience.
Mm-hmm.
Their religion.
Mm-hmm. And how does that express itself? I mean, what happens in the holidays and Sundays that would be different, let's say, from another African country that may not designate itself officially as Christian?
Well, generally, Sundays when we are on holiday, and like here it's Saturday, Saturday, Friday, but in Zambia it's Sunday. So that's our main holiday. And there are a lot of Christian denominations. And there are some who meet on Saturdays as well. The seventh day. And then also you can see this reflected during official functions. Usually official functions with the prayer. And then a lot of events are usually accompanied by the church, the priests are there, and we have choirs. Most official functions are like that.
Yeah.
So that's some of the ways you can see the character of the country.
I remember when you brought the president and about half the cabinet on the state visit about 3 years ago. And we were very honored to have that meeting. But if you remember, I opened the meeting with a blessing. We have a blessing for when you meet a king or a head of state. And it's thanking God for sharing God's glory with a human form, right? With a head of state. And you can see that your president is a man of faith. And that he appreciated receiving a blessing.
Yes.
That was very,
more ministers would have liked to come because there is an affinity towards Israel because of our Christian background. So a lot of Zambians would like to visit Israel for that reason.
Yes, yes, yes.
And some do come. We do have pilgrims.
Yes, yes. It's one of those countries where, as someone who's a religious Jew, we're very comfortable, wearing my head covering, and people say shalom, and they ask questions often, it felt very comfortable, and if went to people's homes, and you feel the faith. So we appreciate that sense of family on that. So as brothers, as in humanity during a very difficult time, right? You've been sent here to open an embassy and to find ways that we could work together as countries and as people. And here I'm wearing my hat as more as the Israeli entrepreneur. But how do you hope that there could be more collaboration? And then I just want to tee it up. We're going to have our first two questions. One, because of protocol, our good friend Ambassador Kedar, and then Ilan Goldstein. But if you could say, what were your aspirations then?
Yeah, one of them obviously is to enhance the bilateral relations. As you mentioned, the relations were severed in '73 and they were restored in 1992. So we've been working towards enhancing that. But also there are economic aspects of it. We are trying to attract more investment and to bring about more trade between the two countries. And that's another of our goals while we are here. One is to gain from Israel's expertise in technology and entrepreneurship, mainly through training We have a number of students, as you mentioned. We have actually about 56 students who are undertaking agriculture internship. Apart from the three you mentioned,
Wow.
we have students in public health. We usually have one or two every year at the Hebrew University.
Oh, wow.
So those are the things that we're interested in.
So wait, do they all come together on your Independence Day in
We
October?
try to get them when they can get them. When we have a bigger, we invite them. When we have a bigger function, we invite them.
Okay, depending on how many show up, we're happy to. Elon and I have sponsored Shabbat dinners. He has a apartment overlooking Jerusalem, and perhaps we can have a good number of them either at his home or mine. Well,
It would be honor. I don't know if my wife is a better cook or if Yosef's wife is a better cook. It might be. We may have to have a contest about that. And
no.
I think the ambassador is going to vote who's the better cook, and
Yeah.
that's what
We wait to see.
Don't put him in a tough spot.
We have to test.
Yes.
That's a test.
So look, as part of the relations, you did, you sent a distinguished member of, from the government here. You've been a great and honorable representative for your people and your country. And we don't have a resident embassy yet. But you have, I think, one of our best ambassadors still assigned to you. And no one has done more, I think, really, to try to bring people like us into Zambia. And so, Ambassador Kedar, introduce yourself, and what's your question for for His Excellency?
Well, thank you, Josef. Thank you, Martin, Ambassador. Well, you've just already introduced me as one of the best Israeli ambassadors. So what else can I say? Except that it's probably not true. So I've been in this position since 2015, and I'm ambassador from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Jerusalem to Zambia, Zimbabwe. You can see in the back here there is actually a piece of Zimbabwean art. Botswana and Namibia. But a lot of the time that I give in the travels, well, in non-COVID-19 days is to Zambia. I think in 2018 I was there like 5 or 6 times. 2019 less because of budget issues in our ministry. That's a different story. And I was just in Zambia just before the lockdown started in January. And hopefully, as soon as we can get back to international travel, we'll be starting again visits. And I just want to say one little story instead of giving a 10-minute lecture that you asked me to do about Israel. No, maybe someone misunderstanding. I'll just give a 1-minute quick story which really sort of shows about the friendship between the countries. So a few years ago, there was an international conference of parliamentarians in Lusaka, and the delegation came from Israel. And when they got off the plane, I said to them, "There's one thing you should know about Zambian people." And he said, "What is it?" He said, "You will not meet any Zambian who does not like Israel." So for members of the Knesset who've been around the world, Europe and in other places, they thought I was joking with them. So they sort of laughed politely, and I said, "Okay, I can see your reaction, but let's not talk about it now. Let's talk about it in 3 days, exactly this point, when you're getting back on the plane." So I left it. 3 days later, we are getting on the plane. I said, "Okay, remember what I said 3 days ago and what your reaction was?" They said, "Yes." I said, "Well, was I right or was I right?" They said, "You were right." I think that sort of shows, really what it's all about in our relations.
Yes.
And well, my question, I would think, for Ambassador Martin is, as we are, can you hear me?
Much better.
Okay, as diplomats, our job is always to find opportunities to make the relations between countries closer for mutual benefit. Now, of course, we are both countries and the whole of the world is in a very, crisis situation because of COVID-19. And my question to my colleague is, how do you think that besides the problems that we have now, basically what opportunities do you think that we will be able to get as we get out of this crisis? What extra opportunities, if any, and I hope there will be, do you think there are that through them we can increase and enhance our relations, whether it's in the area of international cooperation, trade, investment, technology, or whatever it is? That's my question.
Yeah, on the pandemic itself, I think that we should be searching for collaboration in terms of changing information on best practices and whatever technologies are available. As you may recall, we do have an MOU between our Ministry of Health and Israel. And I think that we should explore areas of collaboration in this situation. I think we have a basis to do that. In specifically on the pandemic, but of course the issues of investments are still relevant in this situation. As you may know, as Zambia, we import a lot of commodities, but this situation has made us now focus on how we can build local value chains. I think that we can help our farmers and others to produce for the local retailers. Now that a lot of these goods are not coming in, I think that's another opportunity seen from the Zambian side. But of course, Israel has potential investors, so this is an area I think we can collaborate in. Value addition of some of these agricultural products we are talking about.
Right, wonderful. You might need energy for those products.
Sure.
Elon Goldstein, come on down. What do you have to say to His Excellency?
Thank you very much, Joseph. You're a great host of this show, and I appreciate your television personality. It's really shining through and on the big screen. Your Excellency, we're very excited to be your partner in bringing to fruition the first hybrid energy project in Africa, solar and wind. That's going to be a real feather in your cap in terms of being the first prime mover in Africa to have such a hybrid project. Can you tell us a few words about the state of the energy sector in Zambia, and what is the desire of the government to speed up investment from Israel at this time?
Well, the situation is that at the moment we already have suffered from the shortage of energy. I think you've been probably experienced it through these power cuts we've been having. And this is mainly due to less rain, and this has affected the hydro production of electricity. So obviously we are searching for alternative energy. There's still room to invest in hydro, but now we have an opportunity to develop these alternative sources of energy. It's a very obviously important aspect of any country's economy. And when the energy suffers, I mean, there's a problem with the energy, the economy itself feels it, if an economy can feel that. But it affects the economy in a very, very bad way. And we did feel it in the past 2 years or so when we suffered from shortage of energy.
Well, we're going to do our best. We'll do our best, and thank you for your support. I do want to say, you know, in January, the president did elevate it to a presidential project. I know some of our people who are listening from Zambia are very excited about that. My brother Emmanuel. I see Violet up on my screen, and maybe Violet, you could introduce yourself to everybody. Tell a little bit about your name, how old you are, where you're from, what are you studying in Israel, and what's it like to be in Israel, especially during this very challenging time. So Violet.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Violet Chubuta, 20 years old from Zambia, and I'm currently studying at IDC. I'm doing business administration and entrepreneurship. Well, being in Israel has just been so much interesting. I have discovered a lot of things, learned new things which I didn't know.
So first of all, we want to thank Joey, right? Our friend Joey Lowe is, you know, he's one of the great champions of friendship between Africa. And so how are you doing, you like your classes, and do you have roommates? And it's been Corona, so how's it been?
Well, we're just trying to adapt to the new change, but it hasn't been all that easy, though it's really interesting. I have a roommate who is very nice, and yeah, she's from New York, but she's a very friendly person and kind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all thanks to Joey, who gave us an opportunity to study in the IDC, and yeah.
Great. And is Joshua here? Is his name? Did I get it right?
Joshua.
Yes, I am.
Where are you? Where are you? Let's see you.
I'm over here.
So tell us about yourself, please.
No problem. Hi,
Yeah.
my name is Gomeziani Joshua Gondwe, and just like Violet, I'm from Zambia, and I began studying at IDC doing the double major in entrepreneurship and business last year in 2019. And I have to say, like, ever since before I came to Israel, I really knew nothing about Israel or the state of affairs. All I knew was basically what was on TV and just what I heard. But like coming here has really shown me a really, really different side to everything. And it has like really beautiful people. Everybody is so friendly for some reason. And yeah, like I really like this place. And I'd also like to say thank you to Joy because he's really done a really, really great job on my part on furthering my education. And one of the most interesting things about Israel particularly is the whole point of like chutzpah. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
You got it, but you got to get that stronger
Chutzpah.
chutzpah, yeah, the audacity, yeah.
Yeah, so like that's like a really strong thing to build even as you go on in life. So yeah, that's what I really like about it.
Look, Zambian people are much more polite than most Israelis. So all right, it's interesting because I actually appreciate the gentleness when I go to Zambia. So it's neat. So both of you students, you have both ambassadors here. Israel's ambassador to Zambia and Zambia's ambassador to Israel. What do you want to tell them or ask them?
Well,
Let's hear some of that chutzpah.
well, the thing I would just like to ask Ambassador Keda, His Excellency, is just like about one of the like what are some of the projects that if you have any or if you are planning to in the very near future that you plan on embarking in our country Zambia.
Yeah, hi, thank you. And it's good that you are here in the university, and I hope you're learning well. Just before I mention that, which means you give me a couple of minutes to think about it, a good answer. If you're students at ITC, I'd just like to tell everybody that there are 50 students in Zambia at the moment who from 3 universities who are studying in the agriculture faculties, who are in Israel for an 11-month program whereby they are learning about Israeli agriculture, both through working 5 days a week and 1 day a week studying. Of course, now because of Corona, it's gone to distance learning, but they are arrived in November and they will be going back in October. And then we hope to have another 50 from again from Mulungushi, CBU, and UNZA, University of Zambia in Lusaka. So it's not just you two. I don't know if you know the other students, but there are 50 students. They are right down in the south, near the Egyptian border. So you probably don't see each other a lot, you know, on a regular basis. But they are there and they're having a good time. And with all the problems, they are all here and studying and working well.
Yeah, but Joshua wants to know about the future. What's coming up, and we do want to
I
hear
need
about.
a couple of minutes to think, so I will.
Well, we want both of you to maybe mention the Tevel B'Tzedek program because we're big fans.
Okay, so you know, I think at the moment we have quite a few things in the pipeline, and of course we'd be happy to have more. But I think for the future, the next couple of years is to get everything in the pipeline into fruition, which is not just your, the hybrid energy scheme, but we're also working with an Israeli company to introduce high-tech centers for learning, engineering, and other things, like have been established in the Polytechnic in Cameroon. We want to do this in universities in Zambia. I spoke about this with the president, with your president, in January, and together with the Gigawatt Global Hybrid Scheme project. This was the other projects which we discussed, and both were declared to be presidential initiatives. We have teamed up with a funder, a development foundation for funding, and hopefully this will happen sometime in the next year or so. It's been very useful in Cameroon. They are also there did a center for 3D printing, which we can do also in Zambia. Those are the two big projects. Also, Astrom is the building company, is finished building a whole community basically, and it's now working on the hospital in Lusaka. And also from the point of the NGOs, I think we hopefully in the next year there will be much more work done by 3 NGOs who are already working in Zambia. Save a Child's Heart. They will be able to work much more when the pediatric cardiology unit is established in Lusaka, and they will really be able to be hands-on there. At the moment, there are children coming for operations in Israel, and there is one cardiological surgeon who is studying here. But when your center gets going, it will really be a push for those relations. Also, Innovation Africa is working in Eastern and Southern Africa. Hopefully, it will be connecting about 20 to 40 villages to solar energy, not for every house, but for health centers, schools, and clinics, and things like this, and also supplying energy for water, for pumping water from the aquifer, so which would change the life of most people in the village, especially women who normally go to drink water from a long way away each day. And as Joseph, you said, Tevel Besedek have also started working in women's empowerment, in youth, in community development. They have local workers there. Unfortunately, because of the lockdown, the Israeli volunteers and Israeli staff are not there at the moment. But all these things together, of course, I'll be happy to be new initiatives, but that's about 5 or 6 things which are going on, which I really think in the next couple of years we should get them fully implemented, hopefully.
Wonderful, wonderful. So wait, Violet, we didn't give you a chance to, you have the ambassadors, you have a whole audience, you have investors, you have activists, you have people on the ground here, there. What's your vision? What would you like to see happen, or what's your question?
Well, I don't have a question, but I have a request in form of a suggestion. My request is, as we're studying here in Israel, I would like both the ambassadors to help us, or maybe inform us if there's any chance of a certain project they're working on, if we can be of help on such occasions.
Okay. First of all, we might, Elon and I might take you up on that, on the solar wind, but Ambassador Martin, it sounds like they have a little bit of extra time because of Corona. So is there something a special way they can use their time to forward relations, do you think?
In terms of what the students can do, I didn't really understand the question.
Yeah, I think she wants a special project. If she could volunteer a bit and to move 1 or 2 things forward, do you have any suggestions for her?
During this time? Well, I really can't think of it. There's a lot of limitations of movement and all this. But what I'm hoping is that what they're learning from there'll be a lot of ideas in terms of what they can do. This is why we are excited when they come and study entrepreneurship, because we are supposed to take ideas and turn them into some business projects.
Right.
Yeah.
So Violet, this is actually a key lesson, right? He's empowering you, right? He's saying, don't wait for us fuddy-duddies of the older generation. You as an entrepreneur, you as a living bridge. We want to hear at the end of the year from you, but if you have ideas now or soon, like, what do you think you can do? What do you think is needed? And if you don't come up with any, then we'll get you to work with either one of these nonprofits or Elon and I with the wind solar hybrid. But I think he's right. I think he's counting on you guys, since you really have the benefit of being now from both worlds. I do want to open up to see if there's any from the chats, and there's a variety of chats that we just have to double check. Alice, I don't know if you're checking the Facebook, which has a lot of people. Marion Stein, are you on and you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. What is the name of what is the institution that Viola and Gomez are studying in? I don't know those initials. What's that place?
IDC.
So Violet, the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya is a very top of the line international private university, and they have a philanthropist who brings a lot of African students there, as well as asylum seeker students, which is from Africa. So the Interdisciplinary Center, I happen to know it because my daughter Halel, I don't know if she's on, hey Hamuda, studied communications there, and I just lectured there for the Argo Fellows. So it's a wonderful university.
Thank you.
Of course, nice to see you, Varian. Anybody else have questions from the Zoom? Otherwise, we'll go to the Facebook. Alice, are you able to check the Facebook?
So we have a question on the chat from Sinya Mbale. Joseph, the energy deficit in Zambia is at worst. When do you kick off the project?
Aha, it's the question to me. So thank you very much, Honorary Consul. And also we want to thank you for your help, of course, and your partnership with Ambassador Kedar, because it's all these moving pieces, and it's really about the relationships. Now that the president has declared a project of national priority, we are hoping in the next 2 weeks to have a signature on what's called an implementation agreement. I don't want to go into too much detail. We have some trade secrets, and we don't want to chill the diplomatic and political process. But we've been assured, like we move very quickly. We've done all the initial studies. The wind studies Elon and I were very pleased with. It's one of the few places on the planet where it's beautiful. The sun, you know, during the day goes like this, and as it begins to set, the wind picks up, and there's a wind mass that weathers that's able to demonstrate that it'll be, it's called the load balance. So you can have green energy day and night, in addition to the green energy of the hydro, which is going down because of climate change. So we are ready to sign the things that need to be signed, and the government, which is operating at a reduced capacity because of Corona, I think they're making the best effort we've seen today. So we hope as soon as possible. Is that a diplomatic enough answer? And we're very optimistic, and thank you for whatever help you and others on this Zoom and Facebook can give us. But we're optimistic. Once we have signature, we'll move pretty quickly. All right. Any questions from the Facebook page?
I don't see for the moment.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Corona, because it affects all of us. And you know, Mr. Ambassador, you've been experiencing the lockdown. We were going to go together with Elon, with the ambassadors, down to Ktura for a green energy tour, and that, of course, had to be postponed. Things are big, you know the situation here, but what is it like? I mean, there's 54 countries in Africa, but zoom in on how is Zambia handling it? What's it look like there?
Well, in terms of approach, it's basically what everybody else is doing. It's a two-pronged approach. We have the health part and also the economic part. Of course, the impact on the economy has been quite drastic. So the government has been trying to help the businesses sort of weather this storm.
Yeah.
Of course, in terms of the health side, we are doing what most people are doing: quarantine, surveillance, contact tracing, and so on. But we are under a lot of stress economically, obviously, because in terms of revenues have been affected. So the money to spend on even the fight against the pandemic had to come by. So we are experiencing a lot of stress in that sense. And there's a lot, as in our case, the cases are rising. In Israel, they are going down. So we are anticipating that this problem will be getting more serious as we go on. So we obviously require some kind of assistance and whoever is able to assist, particularly in terms of equipment, personal equipment for health workers, as well as medical equipment and pharmaceuticals, drugs, and so on. So that the needs that we have at the moment. It's quite a difficult fight. For countries in Africa.
I think our friend Ronit, I don't know if she's on this, but maybe afterwards we can talk and see if there's anything that some of the people on the Zoom can do. I see that now the questions are coming in. We're going to wrap up. But Muna asks, Israel's a leader in solar technology, irrigation. Yes, there are cooperations which we've been hearing about in those two sectors. Rabin from Uganda, he's in Israel. He wants to know about the job creation for job seekers, for young people. And again, we know it's a difficult time, but youth unemployment tends to be a challenge in a growing continent. What does job creation look like for young people before Corona in Zambia?
This is a problem everywhere. So this is why we are emphasizing on people getting the skills of entrepreneurship, trying to see what they can do by themselves. Jobs from government are getting fewer and fewer. So hopefully, as people invest in the economy, more jobs can be created. I also hope that individuals find activities that would produce wealth for them.
Yes, yes. So last question for you, and then we're actually, we have a great video that you've recommended called Social Distancing, which is a Corona song to teach young people in Zambia. And we'll end with that. But Foreign Minister Gabi Ashkenazi is being sworn in. And in your first meeting with Foreign Minister Ashkenazi, what message do you have to convey to him?
Well, first I would congratulate him for his appointment, and then of course reiterate what we talked about, the areas that are of interest to us. I know that Israel has been paying increased attention to Africa, as the Prime Minister keeps saying, Israel is going back to Africa, Africa is coming back to Israel. So obviously we would want follow-ups to areas of collaboration with this new administration.
So just under the, since your Zambian student used the word chutzpah, don't you want to just ask him to open an embassy, a permanent embassy in Uganda already? Or do you want me to do that? I'll do
like
that.
Ambassador Keda to be there.
Oh, yes. I can't speak for him either, but...
but we've worked very well with him, but it'd be nice if he went to Zambia.
Okay, so we'll put in a good word, Your Excellency, that you should be really at the top of the list of the increased relations. First of all, I really want to thank you for kicking off. You know, you've been just a great partner and a great friend and a really super representative of your people and your country. and really because of the quality of their ambassador, we have confidence. We have confidence in the relationship and in some of the business opportunities and the nonprofits. You can see under your tenure, there's been more and more under Ambassador Kedar's. If there's other ambassadors on, so just want to say thank you for being on. And next week, we are going to have our friend, the ambassador of Ethiopia to Israel. And he too is a man of faith, Christian. And Ethiopia and Israel are really, that was the beginning of relations with Africa. Everyone goes back to Queen of Sheba and King Solomon, but actually it goes further back, because when the Israelites left Egypt, Moses was married to Tzipporah from Ethiopia, from Cush. So the history of Israel and Africa is deep. And those of you who enjoyed this conversation, please join us next week. And we want to very much thank everyone who participated. Ilan Goldstein, the two students.
Thank you.
People who asked questions. And Alice, let's see if Alice can send us off with 3 minutes to go for a 3-minute music video to get a little bit of the sights and sounds of Zambia during Corona. So thank you, everybody. Alice, you're on.
His Excellency, was a real privilege to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Social distancing, social distancing, social distance, sister. Social distance, mawe. Kode ulindichifua, nikuvara maski paka kwa. Virus kuipa, chizisamba samba.